It's not always easy to move on from a breakup, especially if you've been cheated on or ghosted, or even just because it ended because your partner stopped loving you. No matter what the reason, it did affect you. And if this has happened to you, please join me and we can learn how to let go and move on. Hi, I'm Carol Bettino, a psychotherapist and the author of Better Choices, Better Life and Directions, Your Roadmap to Happiness. Breakups are painful, there's no doubt about it, even if you're the one who ended it. But you have to heal before you move on. Way too often people move on too quickly and they don't deal with the grief of that loss. Can be intense, whether we're the one who had to end it or whether it ended because of something they did. So what I'd like you to think about is, well, a couple of things. One is, if you look at the breakup as something that you need to grieve, you will work through your emotions, because grief is all about emotions. And if you work through them, then you don't carry them into the next relationship. That's why so many people who have been cheated on have issues with trust. People who have been ghosted keep questioning their own self-esteem or their confidence, or what did I do wrong? Those are not the ways to handle how to move on. We need to learn how to control our emotions instead of our emotions controlling us. Now, what I mean by that is people can be sad and hurt and even a bit depressed because of a breakup. But if that sadness, that hurt, that pain, that little bit of depression turns into a full-blown depression where it affects your mood, your ability to function, you lose your energy, your motivation, you start questioning your own self-worth, there's a general unhappiness which can really have a major impact later in life. The other is, sometimes when we look at grief, we have to look at all of the emotions. Guilt is normal. Just like in a loss, even in a death, where we sometimes feel like, if I only would have done that. Do you know the word if is the biggest word in the dictionary? And you know why? Because if never starts with and ends with the word if. It's always, if I would have done that, then this could have happened. If only I didn't do that, then that wouldn't have occurred. And that is not always the case. So we need to, again, look at our emotions. Otherwise, we start to carry them and they become overwhelming to us. That's why people that get anxious over, is this person going to cheat on me again? Or is this person, going to ghost me? Or I didn't receive an email back or a text back or a phone call back. And so you start to worry about what if. And again, what if it's because I've done something? So we need to learn to deal with our emotions. Otherwise, it's like an emotional volcano. We know volcanoes can erupt, and we know that you can actually get close. When you go and have an emotion of that's intense, you'll find yourself getting really scared, overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious. Well, an emotional volcano, think of it as, instead of lava in a volcano, there's emotions, and they bubble. And they bubble, and at any given time, one of our emotions gets a little bit overwhelming, but we deal with it. We work it out. We don't let it control us. Well, what happens if we don't deal with it? We're just trying to cover it up. We're trying to ignore it. We're pretending it doesn't exist. We keep pushing it down and down and down and down. Well, what happens is the threshold for us controlling our emotions goes up. And when it goes up, the slightest little infraction can trigger a volcanic eruption. If it's an emotional volcano, guess what's going to erupt? Your emotions. That's when you see people who are frustrated or annoyed or angry. They can rage. They can become abusive. And sometimes if you're in that relationship, you blame yourself. Well, there's no reason for you to blame yourself for somebody else's bad behavior. People's behaviors are about them, not you. You don't cause it, because people can respond any way they choose to. So they can't blame you unless you allow them to. So when that emotional volcano erupts, that's when the anger is aggression or rage, abuse, sadness becomes depression, anxiety, fear can become anxiety, and guilt can become shame. This is why it is so important for us to deal with our emotions instead of our emotions controlling us. So, many theorists believe that sometimes emotions can get trapped in the body. So if you have a lot of anger, it can kind of get trapped in that stomach area. That's why sometimes people say, I can't eat, I can't keep anything down. All of this stuff keeps staying in our body, and that can cause a lot of physical stress to our body. So it's really important that we learn to control our emotions. Now, there's a lot of ways we can control our emotions. We have to, one, stop obsessing about them. Stop making them have so much power over us, because that's when we give someone else or something else, something externally, to affect our mood and our lifestyle, our happiness, whatever it may be. So we don't want to obsess. We don't want to focus on what went wrong, why it happened, what happened, and just keep over and over and over, because we're programming our brain to stay stuck in the problem, and we're not going to find a solution. So if we can stop obsessing, we can let go. Remember, the brain cannot simultaneously take on opposing emotions, opposing thoughts, without us being able to take control back. So some ways that we can help after a breakup is journal. Journal your feelings, so that you can recognize what is it that you're feeling and how are you reacting, and is your reaction a reflection of what you're feeling. Write down your thoughts. Are you interpreting like it's all my fault? What happens if it was your fault for the breakup? You know what? Get over it, because you can't change it. Nothing is going to change it. And sometimes people keep trying to get it back, and you'll never get it back the way you wanted it to, unless you both really work through whatever the problem is. Otherwise, you carry those emotions and you carry those same problems back into the relationship or in a new relationship. Another reason why we want to not rush into something. Another thing that you can do besides journaling is what I call a goodbye letter. Sometimes, in order to let go of someone, we almost need to let our brain know that we have let go. But we haven't, because we keep obsessing about it. We keep staying in the emotions, and those emotions keep bubbling like that volcano. And all it takes is a song on the radio, the movie of the week, somebody mentioning that person's name. Any one of those things can trigger that. And we can't let go if we're going to keep allowing that to happen. So a goodbye letter sometimes is therapeutic. We're not sending it to them, because it's not about them anymore. It's about us and how we're dealing with the emotions. So what I would recommend is you write a letter of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And at the end of the letter, make sure what you write is how you're moving on, how you're letting go. And no matter what happened, it's time for you to move past it, so that you can start looking for what you want in your future. I also call I call a shower technique as a great technique to get everything off of your chest and out of your head. When you're in the shower, you can tell a person off, you can curse, you can say whatever it is you need to say, because a lot of times that's just poison. That's just that toxic crap inside your body, those emotions that you've been carrying. Let it out. So while you're in the shower, washing your hair and washing your body, do whatever you got to do, but just dump all of those negative emotions out. All the pain and the suffering, curse, do whatever you have to do. And when you get out, it's a great thing, because the water shuts off, everything goes down the drain, you get out, you towel off, you put on new clothes. Think about what that all means. I'm letting go, I'm moving on, I'm cleaning it off, dusting it off, and now I'm ready to move on. So it's a great left brain, right brain experience. Another thing you can do to help you stop the obsessing and heal and deal with the grief is list your obsessive thoughts and then act as if you're your own best friend. If you were to list them down and maybe an hour later, even a day later, a couple of days later, go back at that list and now become your own best friend. Look at that list of your obsession and come up with, why are you doing that to yourself? How can you stop? Look for the solutions. Don't get stuck in the problem. If you recognize you're obsessing, decide how you're going to change it. Now, one of the things that happen after a breakup, after a loss, especially if somebody's cheated, ghosted you, any of those kinds of things, your self-esteem and your confidence may have been broken, and you need to get it back. Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. It's when you look in the mirror, it's who do you see? Do you see past people saying things about you, or do you see yourself with all your imperfections, or do you look at it and you look within and see, I am a good person. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to have somebody care for me and be loving and nurturing. All of that is really important, and that's part of how you get your confidence and your self-esteem back, is redirecting how you feel about yourself and how you feel about what happened. Whatever the problem is, we have to learn how to move on. So again, we want to become solution-oriented, and we become solution-oriented by deciding not to stay stuck in the problem, but by looking at, how can I correct this? How can I fix this? That's why when you list some of those obsessive thoughts, you start to figure out how I can stop it. And sometimes the answer is real simple. Stop it. Don't keep doing it. All right. Affirmations is another great way to build self-esteem and get your confidence back. You may want to just make a list of your accomplishments. List what you're grateful for. So many times we program our brain for everything that's negative, and our focal point is everything external. So it's something happens outside, it affects my mood. It should only affect your mood for a short time, and you need to let it go. Another thing is, this is a great time after a breakup, is to list what you want in a relationship the next time around. And list what you don't want, the things that you're not going to tolerate. Because see, people tend to tolerate bad behavior, will continue to accept it and then justify it, rationalize it, make excuses for it, and even deny it. Even when our friends are telling you, this person is not a good person, and you're still with this person, or you still want to get back with this person, even though it was a bad experience, or even though you got hurt very deeply. So use those affirmations to help you and focus on your accomplishments and what you're grateful for, which means you have to have a positive attitude so you can reprogram your brain into how to move forward instead of having to stay stuck. Another thing is, don't blame yourself over it, even if you're the one who made the mistake. It's like blame keeps you stuck in your guilt, which keeps you anxious, depressed, angry, and keeps you stuck in a problem. It can be like an immovable boulder. And it's like, no, I want it to just be an obstacle that I had to overcome, and I got past it, and now it's behind me. So no blame, stay out of the blame game, and remember the shouldas and the couldas. Don't go shooting all over yourself and what you could have done differently, because you didn't. It didn't change anything then. It's not going to change anything now. What will change is you being more positive and reprogramming your brain to think in a much healthier way. And surround yourself with positive people. It is amazing. When we're around toxicity, we get toxic. When we're around crazy making, we can get crazy. And if we're around people who are negative, we can get negative. So surround yourself with positive people. I'd like to end this podcast with one of my affirmational quotes. It says, as I look ahead, I leave behind what I no longer need to carry. So life is about choices, and you have to decide whether you're going to hold on to this or not. Thank you for listening, and please let others know about this podcast. Share it on your links with your social media. But have a great day. Make better choices, and please avoid the